Okay, friends, I listened to your advice, all of it, and I implemented them for my next Zwift race. But was your advice helpful? Now, I came away from my first race feeling absolutely pumped. I had a great time, knowing that I had so much to learn. And you guys did not hold back on giving me your advice in the comments on what I should work on, what I should focus on, and all sorts of really useful information. Now, of course, in a week, I haven't been able to go and boost my FTP and go do loads of workouts and training plans. My VO2 max has not changed in the slightest, but I did do a couple of recovery zone 2 rides and runs, and I also did a threshold session as well. So it's not like I've just been sat on my bum since my first race doing absolutely nothing, although I have done a little bit of that too. Now, this is the second week of the Zwift Unlocked campaign, so naturally I'm going to do the second race. Now, one comment on my previous video advised to go and have a look at the route in advance, so I knew what was to come. So I checked it out on Zwift Insider, got myself more familiar with the distance, which is 19.6k, elevation of 203 meters, and I also looked at the elevation profile to see the distribution of that elevation, and to no surprise, Zwift did put a nice big climb at the end. But going into this second stage, I did actually feel a bit more confident knowing what was to come on the route. A couple of people did comment on the warm-up part and how spinning my legs out before the ride is a really good idea because it gets the blood flowing, mobility, it switches on your nervous system and all of this. But the difference between my first race is I powered down quite hard. I got some really big red numbers up, and that actually cost me quite a lot of energy, which is why my legs hurt afterwards. And this time I kept myself in a really easy gear and just kind of did a few spin-ups just to kind of like move my legs quicker, not harder. And then it gets to that point. More and more people are flooding into the race and the time is ticking down. And I'm thinking, right, it's all about the start. A lot of people left some brilliant comments about the start. Yes, explode off the start, but don't explode too much. You want to be really fast, but the fastest you can be. You want to be in the lead pack, but you don't want to be at the front. These are things I was trying to remember in my mind, but also figuring out how to actually coordinate that into practice. And as the timer counted down, 3, 2, 1, we go. Now, to begin with, I did go maybe just a tad bit too hard because I saw that I was at the front, but very quickly I eased off again and allowed people to kind of catch up with me so that I could fall into that front group. And I was being really mindful. You can probably see the concentration on my face. I'm trying to really hold myself in a stable position where I'm keeping up with that front group. I'm staying in the middle. I want to be amongst people. But then that front pack kind of started to stretch out into like a piece of spaghetti. And I was thinking, oh no, this isn't good. I'm going to be on my own again for this entire thing. Thankfully, after a tiny bit of time, everyone came together in a nice big bunch at the front again. In that first kilometre, I was kind of feeling okay. I was thinking I have this under control. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. Lots of people had comments about how important drafting is and trying to stay in that pack. One person in the comments actually said you can save like 25-30% of power from drafting in a group. And I thought, well, that's great because I need all the power saving techniques I can get. And then you get your first boost quite early, just under the 2k mark. I got a draft boost, and because I was in the middle of the pack, I just decided to use it straight away. I don't know if that was actually a really good idea. Someone please tell me in the comments. My thinking was that we were on a flat section going into a descent. Didn't I want to kind of get the most out of drafting while I was actually in a pack drafting? So I don't know if I used it at the right time, but nonetheless, I just cranked it out straight away. Then just over 2 kilometre, I was still in the mix of the front pack, and I was actually feeling really good because in stage 1, this is where I dropped off. Now I was actually in the mix and I was holding myself. So I was thinking anything after this point is really just a bonus because I've already done a bit better than my first race. And then we got to about 4 kilometers. I noticed I was starting to kind of drift to the back of that front group, and I was thinking maybe this is where my talent is running out. Now, when it comes to drafting, I'm not 100% sure how close you need to be to someone to get the benefits of that draft. And as I was at the back of that front pack, I was hoping I was getting some residual effects of drafting that was still actually helping me. Now, I'm aware at this point that if I don't put the power down and try and get back into the mix, then I am going to drop everyone quite quickly. And we hit a slight descent, which is when I kind of really crank down and pull myself forward, maybe a little bit too forward. I almost like slingshotted myself into the front ahead of the front pack, and then immediately started to panic, thinking, no, please swallow me up again into your fold. And they did. And then it got to like 5K and 6K, and I was thinking, I'm still in the front, this is amazing. So now I'm back in that front pack. I'm back in the mix of it, getting those draft effects going. And I'm thinking, wow, this is kind of good. This is way better than stage one. I'm actually still here at the front with everyone. Go me. Even when we got to around 7K, there was the first like short little kind of climb. I was still in the mix. I was still holding on to this. Now, don't get me wrong. My heart rate was still really high. My legs were still feeling it, but I was there. I was holding on and I was feeling really damn awesome about it. Then very quickly after that climb, we got to about 8K, and that's when I kind of dropped off the back. Now, I knew it was going to happen at some point, that I was going to drop off the front, but quite honestly, I was just absolutely buzzing. I managed to hold on to that front group for 8K. That's huge for me. So anything after this point, I was just happy. And then for the next couple of K, it's just Hansen, Milligan and myself, like a small little wolf pack, just trading turns with each other. But it wasn't long before Milligan actually then put the power down and took off, leaving me and Hansen to silently suffer together. And then it's just Hansen and I, and we are just trading turns with each other, keeping each other going until about, I think, like 14K, where we actually get our next boost. And thankfully for me, it was a feather. I was absolutely stoked to get a feather because I knew there was another big kind of climb coming up towards the end, and I wanted to keep that in my back pocket. Now, by this point, I am feeling the effects of this. My legs are feeling heavy, I'm out of breath, I'm starting to slow, I'm starting to slog, but I know I'm so close towards the end that I just want to empty myself and get over the line as quick as possible. And then with just over 2K to go, Hansen put the power down and overtook me. But I knew I still had that feather in my pocket. And then as the elevation profile popped up on my mini-map, I decided to use my feather. Now, I'm not sure if this was actually the best time to use my feather, but it did give me the little boost I needed to catch up with Hansen. And then as I got to about 18.5K, I realized that maybe I used my feather at the wrong time, and this would actually have been the best time to use it. But I powered on, and then the distance started dropping down, the swaying kicked in. Now, I know I had comments on my previous video about how swaying does use extra energy, and I need to just like relax but plant myself. But it's really hard to do that. I was thinking it in my head, but when you're in that moment and you're like, I just want to finish, I just want to get over that line, I just couldn't help it. I was swaying. And that's the end of my second ever Zwift race. Now, overall, I actually feel really great about it. Now, don't get me wrong, I know variables are different. It's not all the same people. It's a different course entirely that suits different people. But in my mind, it felt really good to hold on to the front for as long as I did. Now, I think I used my draft boost okay in that lead pack. I'm not sure. And then I did save my feather for that final climb. Again, not sure I used it exactly in the right point. But then I don't know if there is such a thing as a right time to use it, or whether it's just down to individual preference. Now, in terms of finishing, I finish again like kind of roughly mid-pack like I did with the first race. My watts to kilo was 2.2 this time, it was 2.1 previously, so not really much difference there. And the field size was very similar too. So despite feeling much better about how I approached and how I executed this race, my results are still somewhat quite similar. Let's talk about racing scores. I don't quite fully understand it. I know they're dynamic and it's based on all sorts of variables. So my racing score before stage 2 was 106. And I kind of thought, oh, I'll go up again by a few more points. But I didn't. I went up by 1 point. I'm now 107. Now, I think that's because this race was very similar in terms of like power, field size, my placement, and therefore it didn't really go up. Not gonna lie, a little bit demoralizing. I wanted to get a few more points than that. And there we are. That's my second Zwift race in the bag, under my belt, done and dusted. I feel it went much better than the first one, and most of that is down to you guys. I was completely blown away by how many people watched and engaged with that video. Like, you guys are so supportive, encouraging, helpful, and I've really taken on board so much of what you have suggested that I feel quite a lot more confident actually that I'm not as bad as I thought I was, and that I now have a bit more of a clearer path forward in how to improve and how to get better at racing. So that's all for me for this week. I want to say once again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your tips, your advice and insights. I do love reading them, and I get back to as many comments as I absolutely can. And that's it really. I'll catch you in the next one.